In today's busy world, every corner feels crowded with noise. The blaring of car horns, back-to-back meetings, endless notifications flashing on our screens. In all that chaos, silence has become a luxury, an art we've almost forgotten. We talk more, we argue more, we react faster, but we rarely stop to listen to the quiet inside ourselves. And here's the question: does silence hold any real power? Or is it just an empty space, a lack of words? Look closer, and the answer may surprise you. Because sometimes silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. 2,000 years ago, the Stoics already knew this truth. Stoicism isn't some dry theory, it's a way of life. An art of mastering yourself through reason and inner strength. They taught us you cannot control the world outside, but you can always control how you respond. And sometimes the wisest response is silence. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. A stumble you can recover from, but words spoken in anger can leave wounds that last a lifetime." Ask yourself, how many times have you regretted what you said? A fight with your family, a heated argument at work, or a careless comment that hurt someone you love? And how many times have you wished, if only I had stayed silent, things would be different? Silence is not weakness. It's not avoidance. Silence is strength. It's the pause that lets you see clearly, understand deeply, and choose wisely. In Stoic philosophy, silence is intentional. It's the shield that guards you from impulse, the bridge that brings you back to yourself, and the light that guides your most important decisions. So when does silence become wisdom? When can silence change your life? The answer isn't found in a single moment. It's scattered across many. When you face anger, when you're criticized, when you're grieving, or when you stand at the crossroads of life's biggest decisions. Today we'll explore 10 powerful moments when silence isn't just safe. It's the key to inner strength, peace of mind, and true wisdom. So let's begin this journey together, because the art of silence has never been lost. It's been waiting for you to find it again right here in the rush of modern life. And if these words resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, share this video, and leave a comment with your own story of silence. Who knows? Your story might just inspire someone else on their journey to peace. And now, let's begin this journey. The very first moment may be the most familiar challenge we all face when we come face to face with anger. Because sometimes, right in the heat of rage, silence is the only key that keeps us from losing ourselves. None of us are strangers to anger. It can hit without warning, like a storm breaking inside your mind, a careless word from a coworker, an act of injustice in society, or even something small at home. And suddenly, we explode. Uncontrolled anger sweeps away reason. Our words, our actions, turn into sharp blades that cut others and cut ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of ancient Rome, once wrote, "The consequences of anger are often worse than its cause. One shout can shatter a relationship. One reckless act can leave scars that last for years. And when the anger passes, we often realize we turned something small into a wound that cannot be healed." So how do we avoid becoming slaves to our anger? Stoicism teaches us this: silence is the strongest medicine. Silence does not mean burying your feelings. It's not pretending you don't feel pain. No, silence is the pause, the deep breath, the space to step back and see clearly. Think about it. How many times have you reacted in anger, only to regret it later? And if in that moment you had allowed yourself a pause, one silent breath, one step back, how different would the outcome have been? Nelson Mandela is perhaps the greatest living proof, imprisoned for 27 years, surrounded by injustice. When he was finally free, he could have chosen revenge, but he didn't. Instead of letting anger rule him, Mandela chose forgiveness. He chose silence long enough to hear the voice of reconciliation. And that choice didn't just change his life, it changed the destiny of a nation. Of course, we are not Mandela, but we can learn this silence in the face of anger is real strength. So how do we practice it? First, name the trigger. Ask yourself, what exactly is upsetting me? Is it their action, or is it my own expectations being broken? When you name the anger, you already take one step outside of it. Second, pause and breathe. It could be a few seconds, maybe a few minutes. Let your body return to balance. Don't rush to speak, because one word spoken in rage can cut deeper than any blade. Third, focus on solutions, not the fire. Silence is not avoidance. It's a choice to direct your energy toward what truly matters. Anger never solves the problem. Calm often does. Practice these 3 small steps, and you'll see one powerful result. Anger, which could destroy, becomes the very fuel for your growth. You'll protect your relationships. You'll strengthen your inner resolve. You'll cultivate wisdom. Imagine this: every time anger rises, you choose silence. In that moment, you plant a seed of peace, a tiny seed that over time grows into strength, into clarity, into a more resilient life. So the next time anger comes knocking, what will you choose? To let it sweep everything away, or to embrace silence and let it transform you into a stronger, wiser version of yourself? After anger comes another challenge, one that's just as dangerous, just as easy to lose control. It's when you're insulted. And this is the second moment when silence becomes power. Few things test the human spirit more than an insult. When someone throws harsh words at you, your instinct is to fight back, to defend, to strike with words even sharper. But when the heat fades, what do we see? That the comeback didn't free us. It only cut deeper, wounding both them and us. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "If someone offends you, it's because your mind consents to be offended." Think about that. An insult only has power if you let it inside your mind. People can say whatever they want, but it's how you receive it that decides if it hurts you. Picture this. You're in public. Someone suddenly insults you. In that moment, 2 paths open. 1, let emotions take over, shout, argue, and escalate. 2, stay silent. Look them in the eye, offer a faint smile, walk away. The second path feels harder, but it's the one that shows true strength. History proved this through Mahatma Gandhi. In his fight for India's independence, he faced endless insults, humiliation, even violence. But Gandhi didn't answer with violence. He chose patience. He chose peace. And in that silence, he won the support of millions, becoming a global symbol of non-violence. Do you see the difference? An angry comeback gives you a moment of satisfaction, but silence in the face of insult creates lasting power. The power of self-control, the stature of true leadership. The one who stays silent when insulted is not weak. They've reached a higher level of spiritual strength. So how do we practice this in daily life? First, ask yourself, Why am I offended by this? If Epictetus was right, then it's my own mind that gave permission. Is it my ego? Is it my need for validation? When you see the root, you realize the insult is nothing but passing wind. Second, practice silence as a conscious choice, not as escape, but as an answer. A message that says, I am strong enough not to react. I am grounded enough not to be moved. Third, remember silence is the weapon of the mature. A true leader does not prove their worth by arguing with those who insult them. They prove it by standing firm in stillness, letting their actions, their character speak louder than words. And when you master this silence, you'll discover something profound. Insults never had real power. They were only tests forging your strength. And every time you choose silence over rage, you gain more peace, more wisdom, more freedom inside. So the next time someone insults you, pause. Remember Epictetus. Remember Gandhi. And ask yourself, do I want to give this insult power, or do I want to rise above it through silence? Because in that silence, you will find a power beyond words, a power that can transform you and the world around you. After learning to stay silent in the face of insult, we have to go further. Because sometimes the challenge doesn't come from attack, but from ignorance. So how can silence help us when we stand before false beliefs and blind conviction? Let's explore in part 3. In life, you will face ignorance, baseless claims, wrong beliefs, arguments where the other person doesn't even care about truth. And what's our natural instinct? To prove them wrong, to argue, to fight until we win. But the more we argue, the more drained we feel, while they cling even tighter to their illusion. There's a story worth remembering. Galileo Galilei. The great scientist dared to say the earth revolved around the sun, but the whole world believed the opposite. He was opposed, tried, condemned to house arrest. Under crushing pressure, Galileo didn't scream. He didn't waste his breath arguing with the crowd. He chose silence, letting time and truth speak for him. And history proved him right. That story teaches us something powerful. You cannot always change someone's belief. Sometimes the only thing you can control is your reaction. And silence, paired with patience, is the proof of wisdom and long vision. Think about it. How many times have you argued with someone about something you knew was true only to walk away exhausted? And if in that moment you had chosen silence, you would have kept your energy, your peace, and maybe your silence itself would have forced them to reflect. Stoicism reminds us you cannot control the actions or beliefs of others. You can only control your own response. Silence in the face of ignorance doesn't mean agreement. It means refusing to let your mind be dragged into a useless spiral. I remember a meeting once. A colleague stubbornly defended an idea that was clearly wrong. The group argued back and forth, nobody willing to give in. I chose to stay silent. I let the data, the results speak for me. Weeks later, the numbers told the truth, and my colleague had no choice but to acknowledge it. That day I realized some battles don't need words. They need patience, proof. This doesn't mean silence in the face of every wrong. There are moments we must speak up when justice or the vulnerable are at stake. But when it's just empty debate, when the other person seeks ego, not truth, silence is wisdom. Silence here is not weakness. It is strength. It shows you don't need to prove yourself right now. It shows you trust that truth doesn't rush. It shows you value your peace more than winning a pointless argument. Remember this, sometimes the strongest reaction is no reaction. When you face ignorance, ask yourself, will my words really change them? Or am I just letting my anger drive me? If the answer is no, choose silence. Because in the end, patience and wisdom always win. Truth doesn't need to shout, it only needs time. And your silence may become the greatest proof of your stature, your maturity, and your unshakable trust in the power of what is real. After anger, after insult, comes a more subtle test when you face unfair criticism. This is the fourth moment when silence becomes strength. Silence that not only protects your peace, but also proves your true character and worth. One thing is certain in life: you cannot please everyone. No matter how hard you try, there will always be criticism. And sometimes, it will be deeply unfair. Our instinct to react, to defend ourselves, to fight back with words. But have you noticed? That quick reaction often steals your peace and makes the situation even worse. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The criticism itself does not define your value. What hurts is how much power you give those words over your mind." Think back, a time you were judged unfairly. Maybe at work when your effort was dismissed or twisted, or at home when someone misunderstood and blamed you. How did you react? Did you argue? Did you explode? Or did you stay silent? And if you chose silence, you probably realized something, that calmness preserved your dignity and your clarity. Stoicism teaches us to separate the two. Criticism is not the same as your self-worth. Listen, reflect, see if there's truth in it. If there is, learn. But the rest, false, hostile, baseless, let it pass like the wind. Imagine this. You're leading a project. Your boss criticizes you harshly, maybe even unfairly. The reactive leader argues, defends, fights back. The stoic leader stays calm, listens, takes what is useful, and then lets results speak louder than words. That composure not only protects your heart, it raises your credibility. There is a principle in Stoicism: don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Your silence, your composure, that is your philosophy in action. You don't need to speak loudly to prove strength. Let your work, your ethics, your steady attitude speak for you. This practice is not easy. It requires stepping back from your own ego, because when criticism, especially unfair criticism, strikes your ego, screams to react. But if you can pause, if you can separate their words from your worth, you will grow stronger, because you are no longer ruled by impulse. And the result, every time you stay silent in the face of unfair judgment, you preserve your peace. You train your inner strength. You learn to stand firm in the storm, to keep what matters and release what doesn't. Over time, you realize something powerful. Those unfair criticisms, they became your training ground. They shaped you. They forged resilience. They made your soul stronger. Remember this: the world will always be noisy, but you don't have to respond to every noise. Sometimes, silence is the loudest answer. And when you choose silence in the face of unfair criticism, you protect yourself and you send a message. That real strength doesn't lie in angry reaction. It lies in steady calm. After learning to stay silent before unfair criticism, we move to another challenge of daily life. How do you stay calm in the face of boasting? In social gatherings at work, Even within family, we've all met that person, the one who can't stop bragging about their achievements, their connections, their success stories. And in those moments, we feel the urge to jump in, to tell our own story, to prove we're just as good, maybe even better. But right there, Stoicism reminds us of the power of silence. Because the truth is, your worth does not need words to prove it. As the old saying goes, a lion doesn't need to roar to prove it's king. Real confidence is not in boasting. It's in composure. It's in presence. Picture this. You're at a networking event. Someone brags endlessly about their salary, their luxury trips, their big contracts. Most people feel compelled to counter with their own accomplishments. But if you choose silence, if you listen with calm presence, you will stand out. Not because you spoke louder, but because your quiet confidence spoke for you. Silence here is not avoidance. It's discipline. It keeps you from being dragged into a pointless game of comparison, a game fueled by ego. And when you don't play, you rise above. There's a principle in Stoicism. Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In the same way, don't waste energy boasting about your success. Let your work, your character, your consistency speak for you. These last far longer than words of self-praise. Ask yourself, do you want to be remembered as someone who talked about their worth, or someone who lived in a way that others couldn't help but talk about? Because here's the truth. A compliment from someone else carries 10 times the weight of self-praise. I remember attending a conference once. A well-known speaker walked on stage. He didn't mention his awards. He didn't list his accomplishments. He simply shared his knowledge, his experiences, his honesty. And after that talk, everyone rushed to look him up, to marvel at the achievements he never mentioned. That is the power of silence in the face of boasting. Letting action speak. Letting truth shine without words. When you master this, you feel lighter. No pressure to prove yourself. No need to jump in. You learn the art of listening, of observing, of staying composed. And that calmness itself becomes the purest sign of inner confidence. Remember this in a world where everyone is shouting on social media. Silence and humility are what make you stand out. The more successful someone truly is, the less they need to brag, because they know real value is proven in action, not words. So next time you face a braggart, smile, listen, and stay silent, because sometimes that silence is the loudest voice of all. It speaks of confidence. It speaks of wisdom. It speaks of who you truly are. After silence in the face of boasting, we step into an even harder challenge. When you face false rumors, this is where silence is not just wise, it becomes your shield. Protecting your dignity, protecting your peace. No one escapes this in life. At some point, you will be the target of a rumor, sometimes born of jealousy, sometimes out of misunderstanding, and sometimes simply because someone enjoys making up stories. And we all know rumors spread like wildfire. They burn reputations. They leave scars. So what's the first reaction when you hear one about yourself? You want to explain, to fight back, to prove the truth immediately. But here's the trap: the louder you argue, the longer the rumor lives. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And rumors are exactly that, outside events, beyond your control. The only thing you truly own is your reaction. And sometimes the wisest reaction is silence. Picture this. A small-town teacher is accused of something she never did. The rumor spreads fast. The community whispers, waiting for her to explode, to defend herself, to fight back. But she doesn't. She keeps teaching. She keeps caring for her students. She keeps living with honesty and devotion. And over time, no evidence comes. The truth emerges. And her silence becomes the loudest proof of all. That story teaches us this: truth doesn't need to shout. It needs time. It needs patience. When you argue, you give rumors oxygen. When you stay silent, you let them suffocate. Ask yourself, how many times have you heard a rumor about yourself and felt the fire rising inside? And what if instead of reacting, you chose silence? Would people see sooner that there's nothing real behind the noise? Stoicism reminds us, your way of life matters more than what others say about you. Rumors can sting for a moment, but your character, your consistency, your actions, they endure. They outlast every whisper. Silence in the face of false rumors is not weakness. It is a choice. It's saying, I will not waste energy on lies. I trust myself. I trust time. And I trust that truth will stand on its own. Remember this: the world will always have noise, but the voice of truth of integrity lasts far longer than any rumor. So next time gossip circles around, you ask yourself, will I feed the fire with arguments, or will I hold my silence and let the light of truth put it out? After learning to stay silent in the face of unfair criticism and meaningless boasting, we move to another test, more subtle, more frustrating, when you get caught in the web of rumors. Here, silence is not just dignity. It is a mirror, a reflection of your true character. There's something strange about rumors. They're like the wind. Once they blow, no one knows where they'll travel. And sometimes you become the target. A story twisted, repeated, exaggerated until it clouds your work, your reputation, your very image in the eyes of others. So what do you do when the rumors come? Fight back, argue, attack. Stoicism gives us another answer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who wronged you," which means don't let gossip drag you down to the same level as those who spread it. Picture this leader in the environmental movement. She's accused of selfish motives, of exploiting her cause for personal gain. The rumors spread quickly. People whisper. They wait for her to lash out, to defend herself, to fight. But she doesn't. She keeps planting trees. She keeps rallying her community. She keeps building projects that matter, and over time, those actions became her defense. Her work became her truth, and the rumors, they lost their power. That story teaches us this: your actions and your character are the strongest evidence you will ever have. A heated reaction makes people doubt. A consistent life makes rumors meaningless. So ask yourself, when you hear a rumor about you, what do you want to prove? That you're right, or that you're stronger than the words spoken against you? If it's the second, then silence, calmness, and living true to your values, that is the most powerful answer you can give. This doesn't mean you ignore everything. It means you stay calm enough to search for truth. Does the rumor have any basis? If yes, adjust, grow, improve. If no, let time and truth do their work. One of the greatest practices is to respond with wisdom. Don't let gossip own your mind. Stay focused on what really matters: your work, your family, your purpose. Remember this: what others say does not define you. The way you live, the way you contribute, the way you stay composed, that defines you. I once heard a saying, people may invent rumors about you today, but they cannot invent your life tomorrow. How true that is. Because in the end, truth reveals itself through action, and rumors vanish like smoke. So next time you hear a rumor spreading about you, pause. Remember Marcus Aurelius. Don't take revenge by becoming like the gossiper. Answer instead with calmness, with integrity, with meaningful action. Because in the end, rumors are only echoes, short-lived, but your character, your work, your values, if kept pure, will remain clear, strong, unshakable. After learning how silence helps us rise above criticism, gossip, and empty boasting, we now face one of life's greatest tests, injustice. This is where silence is no longer about patience. It becomes strength, a shield that guards your dignity, a pause that gives you the wisdom to act at the right time. No one escapes injustice. It could be favoritism at work, a wrong decision that hurts you, or the invisible barriers of prejudice society places before you. And when it happens, the instinct is clear: to shout, to fight back, to take revenge. But stop for a moment and ask yourself, does that reaction bring true justice? Or does it simply make you resemble the very people who wronged you? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This is more than advice. It's a philosophy of life. True justice doesn't come from retaliation. It comes from holding your ground without letting injustice turn you into something lesser. One of the greatest examples of this is Nelson Mandela. He was imprisoned for 27 years, nearly 3 decades of chains of injustice, of pain. When he finally walked free, Mandela had every reason to seek revenge. He had the power, he had the support of millions, but he didn't. Instead, he chose reconciliation. He chose silence in the face of provocation. He chose calmness as a way to lead his nation toward unity. And that choice made him not just a leader, but one of the greatest moral figures of the 20th century. This teaches us a vital truth. Silence in the face of injustice is not surrender. It is not weakness. It is strength. It is how you keep your soul from drowning in hatred. It is the silence of discipline, a silence that gives you clarity. So when you act with wisdom and with justice. Think about your own life. How many times have you faced small injustices, a harsh judgment, an unfair comment, a biased decision, and you lashed out in anger, and afterward, did you feel regret? What if in that moment you chose silence? What if you gave yourself a pause and found a better way to respond? Stoicism teaches this. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can always control our response. So when injustice comes, don't let emotions drag you down. Focus on what you can do. Protect your dignity. Seek lasting solutions. Turn adversity into training for inner strength. Silence doesn't mean you accept injustice forever. It means you refuse to act in anger. You give yourself space to think, to plan, to act with purpose. Because action born of calm wisdom is always stronger than reaction born of rage. Never forget, injustice is part of life, but how you face it defines who you are. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you greater. So next time injustice knocks at your door, choose silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of strength. A silence that helps you stand tall in the storm, so when you act with clarity, with fairness, and with unshakable dignity. After walking through the storms of words of criticism, of injustice, we now arrive at something deeper, something that cuts to the very core of the human heart: loss. So how can silence help us face loss? Let's step into part 9. In this journey of life, nothing strikes us harder than loss. The loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, a missed opportunity, even the death of a dream. These moments leave a void, a silence that feels unbearable. We stand there asking, how do I go on when everything seems broken? Seneca once wrote, "The day we fear as our last is but the birthday of eternity." His words remind us loss is not just an ending. It is also a doorway, a reminder of our limits. And within those limits, we find meaning. C.S. Lewis, after the death of his wife, wrote in, "A grief observed. The pain I feel now is the happiness I had before." That's the deal. His grief was proof of his love, proof of joy once lived. If we had never loved deeply, we would never grieve so deeply. So what can we do when loss enters our lives? Stoicism gives us a path: human, compassionate, real. First, acknowledge your feelings. Don't deny them. Don't bury them. Tears are not weakness. They are truth. Write in a journal. Cry. Speak to someone you trust. Only by honoring the pain can healing begin. Second, focus on what you can control. You cannot change what happened, but you can choose how you move forward. You can choose your perspective. You can choose to turn pain into strength. Third, find the lesson within the loss. Every ending teaches something. It reminds us to value the present, to love without delay, to live fully in every moment. Ask yourself, what is this loss teaching me? How can I grow wiser, kinder, deeper because of it? And finally, practice gratitude and seek community. In grief, it's easy to focus only on what's gone. But pause, and you'll see what still remains. Family, friends, memories, life itself. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each day, no matter how small. And don't be afraid to lean on others. A word of comfort, a gentle hug. The simple presence of another soul, sometimes that is enough to remind you you're not alone. Loss is a part of life, but how we face it determines how we grow. See it only as despair, and it will consume you. See it as a lesson, and it will transform you. Loss can be the soil where gratitude takes root, where wisdom blooms, where love deepens. So next time you face loss, allow yourself to grieve. But do not let grief define you. Hold silence in your heart, a silence that listens, that learns, that gives thanks. Because within that silence, you will discover a path toward peace, toward wisdom, and toward a greater love for life itself. And after all these moments, we arrive at the final one, perhaps the most important of all when it's time to make the big decisions in life. This is when silence becomes your compass, the guide that helps you hear your own voice before you take the next step. In life, there are crossroads we cannot avoid. Do I leave this job or stay? Do I invest or pull back? Do I marry, divorce, or start over somewhere new? Big decisions always carry weight, anxiety, pressure, and noise, so much noise from the outside. Everyone has advice, everyone has an opinion. But the question is, can you still hear the voice within? Seneca once said, "No one can control themselves if they are carried away by the crowd." And nowhere is this more true than in moments of decision. If you let the crowd dictate, you lose the ability to listen to what your soul really needs. Picture this. You're considering a new job. Some say, take it. It's a huge step forward. Others warn, it's too risky. Praise from one side, doubt from the other. The noise grows so loud, you can no longer tell what's right for you. And in that moment, what you need most is not more advice, but silence. Silence separates you from the noise. It opens space to think, to weigh pros and cons with clarity, to feel which path aligns with your values, your long-term vision, your life's purpose. Remember this, emotions are double-edged. Anger, excitement, fear, all can push you toward impulsive choices you may regret. That's why one rule matters. Above all, never decide in the heat of emotion. Give yourself time. Step into silence like stepping into a quiet room where clarity replaces chaos. This doesn't mean you ignore others. Yes, you can listen. You can learn. But their advice is only suggestion, not the map of your life. The final decision must come from within, from a calm mind, from a steady heart. I once knew a man facing a career change. He heard every kind of advice, support, warning, doubt. Finally, he stopped talking to everyone. He took 3 days alone in silence. He walked, he wrote, he listened to himself. And when he returned, he chose the path many had told him not to take. Years later, that choice became the best decision of his life. That is the power of silence before making a choice. It protects you from impulse. It gives you long-term vision. It helps you build a life not on noise, not on pressure, but on your values, your true direction. So the next time you stand at a crossroads, don't rush. Don't let the noise decide for you. Step into silence. Let your heart and mind come together. And in that stillness, you will find the path that is yours. A path that leads not just to success, but to meaning, to peace, and to a life that lasts. We've walked through 10 powerful moments together, moments where silence is no longer passive, but active. A force that can resolve conflict, protect you, nurture wisdom, and above all, help you live a life of peace and wholeness. Perhaps the greatest lesson silence teaches us is this. You don't have to react to everything around you. The world will always be noisy, always full of judgment, comparison, injustice, and chaos. But the one thing you can always control, and the most important thing of all, is your own response. Marcus Aurelius left us a reminder that still echoes today. Don't argue about what it means to be a good person. Be one. In the same way, you don't need to argue about the value of silence. Practice it. Live it. Let silence be the proof of your calm, your wisdom, your inner strength. Think about your own life. How many times have you wished you stayed silent instead of speaking too soon? How many times has silence saved you from conflict, preserved a relationship, or given you the clarity to think before you acted? And how many times did you realize silence didn't make you weaker? It made you stronger. Silence in the Stoic spirit is not avoidance. It's a choice. It's the space you create before action. It's the shield that guards you from reckless words and the light that guides your most important decisions. If you begin practicing silence even in the smallest ways, like pausing for a few seconds before reacting, listening more deeply in conversation, or letting time and actions speak for you, you will start to change. You'll grow calmer, steadier, wiser. Today's world has almost forgotten the art of silence, but you can bring it back into your daily life. You can choose silence instead of pointless argument, calm instead of anger, patience instead of fueling rumors. And with every small choice, You're building a life of peace, happiness, and strength. So I invite you starting today to practice silence, not the silence of fear, but the silence of strength, not the silence of surrender, but the silence of wisdom. And in that stillness, you'll discover yourself deeper, stronger, freer. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever say is nothing at all.